Blessings and welcome. Look at the happy bell. Isn't that just adorable? I love the happy bell. I have had this bell for so many years, and it was gifted me by a dear friend who is a Buddhist. And I am not Buddhist, and I know some of you are, so please correct me if I am off route with this, but it is to my awareness that when we ring what I call the happy bell, I know there's a professional or a different name for it, but when we ring that happy bell, our seeds of enlightenment begin to awaken. Our seeds of enlightenment begin to stir and become excited. And I mentioned that this morning because of our talk, the beginning of an ongoing talk, spiritual growth. Spiritual growth. Did you have a contract with your soul that you would come in at this lifetime aware to a certain point of different aspects of life, of your self, of your personal identified self? And was it a part of your contract that once you had achieved a certain amount of lessons or life experience, that then you would begin to move into a deeper realm of spiritual study, of spiritual growth, of knowing thyself? Did you come in and from the first moment that you can remember being a young child, have you always had a sense, a deeper sense, an insight, an intuition that has been present with you, guiding you, and has either been supported by your family, by your friends, or not? Have you had those experiences whereby you've had extrasensory perceptual experiences as a youth? Have you seen UFOs, odd things in the sky? Have you seen ghosts? Have you felt a presence? Have you always had a sense of your intuitive hunches being deeply resonant with the part of you that you know you can trust? These are all very interesting questions, and questions that bring us into considering and contemplating our own personal spiritual growth on this journey. And in sharing about this, I am curious, and I invite you to be curious as well about, when did it all really start happening for you? Was it sooner than you think it was? Perhaps you feel like, well, it all started when I began to take Taekwondo and I started understanding energy more. What is my energy versus what is other people's energy? How to hold my energy, how to hold my space. And perhaps that translated into understanding the multidimensional levels beyond the veils of who you are as a spirit beyond this body, the energy components. Did it start when you received your level 1 attunement with Reiki? Did things really start to lift off and take off then? Did it start by you being surrounded as a youth by those kinds of energies? I know for me, as a youth, my mother was often meditating. There were a million books all around the house, everything from how to meditate, about your aura, about chakras, spiritual 5th dimensional, 6th dimensional explorations. And also a whole bunch of cassette tapes. If you remember cassette tapes, there were a whole bunch of cassette tapes all over the house that I used to use that were guided meditations, hypnosis, neuro-linguistic programming. Were these kinds of things in or around you as a youth growing up? Or did you seem to, through your growing up, begin to attract more of these things to yourself? All of these tools and all of these divine gifts are such an integral part of our comeuppance, of our learning about ourselves and our spiritual growth. And I believe that there is a point in our lives when we begin to tap and really consciously understand that we do expand beyond this physical form, that our energy does and is connected, not only with other people, with places and things, but with the continuum, the larger picture of all creation. And perhaps it begins with intuitive hunches, psychic abilities, telepathy, telekinesis, moving things with your mind. I know as a child I used to love doing that. And it's interesting, did you have skills like that as a child that were way more heightened than now that you're a little bit older? The volume on them has turned down a bit. I know for me that has happened with telekinesis, for example. And I've asked my higher self. My higher self says, well, you don't really need it right now. So we're not going to be focusing on that. You can focus on it. And there are times where I'm guided to just sit and bend the spoon or sit and float the balloon, you know. And I think what it all comes down to is our ability to access the imagination, the ability to access what is not here in plain sight, our ability to access what is hidden in plain sight, which is you and me and everything, all the information about everything. It's already here. It already surrounds us. So, spiritual growth, the higher self. Making contact with the higher self is one of the most powerful ways to become attuned to the truth of who you are, to become attuned to that strata of self that is wise, that is loving, that is compassionate, that knows there is a higher order, that knows there is a higher purpose and a higher good for you in this life and every day of your life. Your higher self knows how to connect you with Source, with all that is, with God, with love, with your highest potential. Isn't that just so beautiful and so very powerful? When was the first time that you really feel that you made contact? Pardon me, I'm having a moment here. That you made contact with your higher self? When was the first time that you really experienced that wisdom, that divine guidance coming down and filling up your heart, filling up your mind, filling up your vision, your ability to see beyond the veils in this world? The more that we trust that voice that is the higher self, the more we begin to experience life in a very different way, and hence the gateways of spiritual growth. The games commence. The awareness commences. The activation commences. And what is your higher self? Well, I have a little book, a little ebook that if you subscribe to my website, the link is below in the Show More box, you'll receive a copy of my book. Your higher self is the voice for God, is your divine direct connection to Source, to the loving kindness, to the patient, compassionate wisdom that you are, that knows how to counsel you and knows how to hold space and counsel for others. It holds the blueprint of your mastery. It holds all of the PowerPoints of who you are as a master in your life and in your world. if you should listen, if you should receive it. And it's really learning to trust that higher self, to trust the guidance that it gives us, that begins to turn us on to recognizing our spiritual continuum. And there's so many more things, right? This is just one little tube, one little rabbit hole. And as we begin to connect with our higher self, we begin to recognize there's a much larger strata at play in the universe. We begin to tap into and connect with that part of ourselves that exists beyond, again, this body, and that are connected to the greater whole and ultimately created, and ultimately connected to love and to light. And as we have our spiritual comeuppance, our exploration in spiritual growth, we begin to very naturally explore participating, practicing, expanding and contracting our light. We begin to understand what is our source soul energy and what is not, what is someone else's personalized source soul energy. Now, the thing about the higher self is that it is connected. It connects us not only to that true, powerful, authentic, integral source of who you are, personalized as a soul, yet it is connected to the higher strata and continuum of all souls as that higher being. So when you plug into your higher self through your awareness and your spiritual growth, you are connecting, yes, to your personalized continuum, your personalized readout of who you are and how to bring your purpose, how to bring your love and your light into this world. And at the same time, you're connecting with the greater whole of all love and light, of all higher selves, of the one soul, of the one source. And what is that higher self? That higher soul, or that soul, that higher self that is the one of all beings, that is pure light, pure love. The radiance of that light, the radiance of that love. And on our path of spiritual growth, we begin to understand the power of light to heal, the power of light to bridge into our consciousness the conditions that create the most loving circumstances, the most high circumstances, the most divine outcomes. Let's take a moment right now and just close your eyes and imagine there is an infinite source of love and of light, bright, bright light. And as you're guided, call in that light through your crown and drop it into your heart. Imagine it as a beautiful, beautiful orb of light. And then imagine that light expanding out from your heart, surrounding you where you are, filling up your environment, the home, the space where you might find yourself now, wherever that is. And allow it to continue moving out and out and out. You are a channel of love and of light. You can bring your awareness back now. We always have the opportunity to channel light, and the more light we access on our path of spiritual growth, the more we see, the more the veils are lifted. Light burns through the veils of dross. As we connect with the universal mind, through connecting to our higher self, which is really brought on by relaxation, by cultivating the ability to experience peace, by meditating, by listening, by cultivating and developing a practice of listening. The higher self is that voice which whispers divine guidance and intuitive nudges to you. The higher self is that which is connected beyond reason and logic. Its full force, power, and authority are directly rooted and connected to everything that is beyond reason, to everything that is beyond logic in this world. It operates on a different playing field. It operates on a different trajectory of how we manifest, of how we see, and so co-create our realities in this world. And so when we meditate, when we are still on our path of spiritual growth, we begin to understand the value of creating a coherent state of our energy field. We begin to really understand the value of not being stressed, of being peaceful and calm. We begin to understand the value of correct thinking and correct speech. And as we align and attune ourselves with these abilities to connect with our higher self and with that higher strata of who we are, of our potential and our being, we begin to connect with the entirety of the whole higher self, of the universal mind that is ever wise and all light throughout all time and space and creation beyond what we think we know. We begin to contact with, we begin to commune and communicate with, and have a dialogue with. Light and our higher selves, our spiritual growth is ultimately bringing us on a journey of understanding our authentic power and integrity, our true self. And it is also connecting us to the infinite power that is always here, always present, that is present in the love, in the light that is. And that light is constantly creating correct conditions for the evolution of your highest good, of my highest good, of the highest good of all. So in connecting with our higher self, we are connecting with light. In connecting with light and our higher self, we are connecting with the universal mind. And as we begin to connect with the universal mind, again, we begin to become more and more clear about what is my mind? What is my personalized mind? What does my authentic mind say? What does my mind say? I know my mother is a Kadampa Buddhist. I'll have to ask her about the happy bell. And according to their teachings, the mind is in the heart. Now, isn't that interesting? Right? And in Buddhism, the heart is all about compassionate wisdom, living your Dharma. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. And I could keep talking about it. And there's so many fractals, but it's living the true continuum in every moment of what your heart, your soul, your higher self, your spiritual self calls to you. And in that way, when we follow that and we allow ourselves to collapse timelines of fear, of judgment, of the past, of the future, we are allowed to relax into the eternal now. And when we relax into the eternal now and honor with integrity the divine guidance, the whispers of our higher self that is constantly guiding us, if we be still enough so we could hear and listen, what happens is that we stop creating karma. We stop creating circumstances in which we have to then be propelled into these long, enduring adventures, which is fine, it's totally fine. Yet, what kind of adventure do you want to have, right? So we listen to the heart, we listen to the higher self, we honor it, we acknowledge it, we make moves in the 3D, in the world, on behalf of that divine guidance. And in doing so, it creates a clear path in the present moment, but a clear path forward, if you will, that allows us to not create the constructs that we have to battle and continually fight in order to recognize who we truly are, in order to recognize our true power and potential. And so in connecting and linking with the higher will, we understand that we are connecting and linking to that universal mind that is rooted in love, that is rooted in light, and that has the intention, and that its only purpose is to evolve us, is to evolve this world, is to evolve our DNA, the cellular structure of our being, to help us learn how to heal, to help us learn how to evolve. It is the natural substrata of our being. And the more light we call into ourselves along our path of spiritual growth, the more the seeds within us will be watered, the more we will light the way and clear that divine connection and communion with our higher self so that we can hear the messages, so that we can feel empowered and aligned and courageous to honor them. I'm going to take a look at the comment box here. Blessings. Hi, April. Good morning, Will. Hey, Tammy's here. Blessings, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. And I pray, you know, there's a whole bunch of new subscribers. Every week I go on, there's new subscribers, and I'm so very grateful. And I truly pray that everything that I offer here, there's over 200 videos so far, and everything that I offer really serves your path of spiritual growth and spiritual sovereignty, and you being free in the world, you being in the world and not defined by it, you learning through your path of spiritual growth how to connect to divine light and bridge heaven on earth through your divine being, through this physical body, through your consciousness, through the intelligence of your emotional body, through the intelligence of your mental body, through the intelligence of your physical body. And ultimately, all that we're doing when we're on the path of spiritual growth is we are learning. I feel like there's stages, right? We at once get very excited, and perhaps we buy a bunch of crystals, we light a bunch of candles, we burn a bunch of sage. Woo! We start doing a meditation class or something. We go, you know, get into different practices, and it's exciting, it's awesome. And then as we start to bring in more light along this path of spiritual growth, oh, it starts to light up those corners under the rug, those places deep within us where perhaps we've buried certain feelings related to the past, certain happenings that have occurred in our life that have marked us, that we carry in our aura from a youth, situations with family, perhaps even from past lives. And so we begin to call more light into ourselves, and that light helps to illumine and light up those places where we get to do the work. And that's a part of being a spiritual being. That's a part of our spiritual growth. That's a huge arc of our spiritual growth, whether it's addiction, depression, suicidal thoughts, whether it's just the mental strata that seems to be confined into a negative, judging, fear-based way of thinking, scarcity way of thinking, a healing in the body. There's so many different levels of things that we use here, that our higher selves use as a means to come into being a warrior. Because we realize as we begin to add more light into our path of spiritual growth, that we can either keep going in, or we can roll up our yoga mat and say, I'm never going there again. That's too deep. That's actually hurt. That hurts. There's pain inside of me. And I have not felt this level of pain since I was 5 years old, since I was 12 years old when this thing happened to me and marked me. And I'm afraid to go in. So we start to gather tools. We start to build community. We start to get our crystals. We start to learn Reiki or yoga, whatever it is, to help create the correct conditions, to hold space for our light body, to calibrate that part of us that is our higher self, for our higher self to be turned on, plugged in to all the light, to the universal mind, and begin to filter through our cells in the subatomic level of our being, so that we begin to create the healing within our life. And that's how I love this guy, Tim. Is it Tim or Tom? Will, I think you know of him. Mom passed on an email or a video. There's a really great astrologer. I'll have to find his name and his thing and put his link down below. But he just does these blurbs every full moon and every new moon. And now I even forget the point of what I was talking about. Anyway, calling in that light and creating with it. Oh, that's what it was. Is he said something brilliant where, you know, we come in, we have our scars, we have these issues, but then ultimately we learn how to heal those scars. We learn how to heal those issues. And that's how we learn, through being that warrior, through facing the dark, through facing our shadow, through facing our fears and our pain. We learn how to transmute that. We learn how to become the healer of our lives, and we learn how to know thyself. And when we know thyself, this is the root of your sovereignty. This is the root of your power. It's like Eminem in 8 Mile in that movie. At the very end, when he's finally going up to like do his rap, and the guy before him is like fully just tearing him apart and saying all this stuff about him living in a trailer park, and his mom is this and his dad is that, and his girlfriend does whatever. And it was like all true stuff. And he gets up there and he just starts rapping, and he riffs off of what this guy was trying to like put him down with, or mess him up, mess up his step, mess up his flow. But he transmuted that like a warrior and turned it. I had no idea I was going to talk about Eminem today, and turned it into his power. He said, yeah, boom, let me eat this like a shaman. Let me digest this and let me regurgitate it and tell it back to you in my voice, in my life, in my way. And so we own what has happened to us to a degree. We own through our levels of spiritual growth. We learn how to overcome what has been in the past. We learn how to grow. We learn how to grow spiritually. We learn how to hold more space. We learn how to love ourselves, which is really a big, big root of spiritual growth. We decide, the more we decide to keep loving ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper, the deeper and the greater your ability will be to access that, to exercise that. It's almost like the universe goes, oh, yes, self-love, here's more ways on how to experience that. Here's more people that will help to perhaps challenge you to be and embody more of that. Here's more tools to serve you along your path of that. It's really, really quite awesome. And so we link with the higher will, and we get to come into these notions as we link with the higher will, and perhaps we're going through our spiritual growth and we say, wow, I'm seeing all these issues come up. Probably things that were fully unconscious or on a subconscious level. And now I feel like I'm ready to start scratching the surface and do the work. And so we sit and we meditate, we connect with our higher self, we connect with the higher will, and we begin to ask of that light. We begin to ask of our angels, of our guides, whoever it is, those divine light beings that love us, our totems. We begin to call them in to help us expand our multidimensional awareness of who we are and what we're doing and how to navigate those spaces in the invisible realms. Because ultimately, as A Course in Miracles teaches, love and only love is real. Love and only love exists. Yet here, as we work out our personality traits and our issues and those things that have caused us pain in the past, there is love and there is fear, right? There is pain and there is liberation. And until we create the correct conditions that shift the scales to the point where there is more love and more liberation and more authenticity versus the opposite of that, that's when we start to groove and rock and roll on our path of spiritual growth. And we begin to integrate, right? At first it begins with spiritual growth where we're connecting with our higher self. We're listening for those divine, those little droplets of information, those visions, those feeling realizations. And over time, what happens is you begin to integrate your higher self and your personality self, your 3D, your body, physical being self, they become one. As you become that warrior, you face your shadows down. You learn to bless your shadows. You learn to bless your lessons and integrate them and say thank you and namaste to those people that have caused you harm. And in A Course in Miracles, it would teach that actually those things that you think happened to you, that you perceive as being painful, or where others have hurt you or harmed you, that those things actually never really happened, which is a big leap. On the path of spiritual growth, yes, we connect with the higher will and we recognize, we begin to learn and discern that there is a difference between my will, my personal will, and a higher will, the highest good of all. For years in the teachings that I've shared, there's always been a cosmic clause. I call it the cosmic clause, and it is for the highest good of all. And Reiki really embodies and teaches this. When we share and facilitate Reiki, it is not, I'm not forcing a healing. As a Reiki facilitator, you are not forcing a healing. You're not trying to decide that the broken leg needs to be fixed, because the intuitive intelligence of something beyond our thinking mind is allowed to come through, channel through, and create the correct conditions for healing where that individual's best to be served in that time and space. And so while you may receive downloads or intuitions about what that might be, we still get the ego out of the way. We move out of the way and we allow the higher will, the higher light to do the work. It's the God phone. Hello. Well, hello. Oh my gosh, God's like, I love the hair, girl. Thank you. I appreciate it. I do too. It's fun. God's all like, I'm going to get myself some hair. You're hilarious, God. Yes. Yes. I know. You know what? It's weird. I have to be honest with you. I have been having a little bit of resistance with the word that sums you up. For years, I never used the G word, like for years. And then I became a student of A Course in Miracles. And all of a sudden I'm like, God, 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 God phone, God, God, God. And just over these last couple of weeks, I'm like, I'm not going to use the God word so much. And I don't know why, because I know it's not your name. It's a word, which is a symbol twice removed from what the root of you is. And what I've come to identify with the help of teachings is that you are actually the feeling realization of oneness. Yes, with people, with places, with things, with just everything that surrounds us. It's just a harmonic convergence and a feeling that we can sustain. So really, I feel that you're a feeling more than a person. Yes, yet those qualities are available in every interaction we have with people. Wow. Okay. Thank you. God says, I am whatever you want me to be. Dropping the wisdom there. Thank you. I know. Isn't this funny? Look at this. You're not even plugged into anything and you just ring. You ring. God's like, I ring when I need to ring. Okay. You're pretty funny. You're going to have us do a meditation on the higher self. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that book, Spiritual Growth by Sanaya Roman. Yes, it's a channeled piece of material. Well, thank you so much for calling and for guiding us to do this meditation this morning. Blessings. Namaste. You know, I think that's so interesting for me personally, the whole God thing. But anyway, God's just dropping knowledge, you know. There's so many different definitions. If we even just think for a moment about that, you know, the word God and all of the pictures, all of the definitions, all of the feelings, all of the experiences attached to that through all time and space, like the grid, right? If we just go to the grid of God, like going into the library, typing God, and then you have like probably, it's like Google, right? Going into Google and typing the word God, like how many infinite pages and definitions and pictures and images and things does this conjure? So God is all of it. God is all of it. And the feeling realization of oneness, which is ultimately where our spiritual growth is guiding to take us. Our spiritual growth in connecting with that higher will, we were talking about the ability to be present and to learn the difference between our will and a higher will, and to learn and honor that there is a divine power in allowing what truly serves the higher good to be, what truly serves the higher good for the highest good of all. Whenever we ask for anything in the universe to come manifest, we place the awareness of what is really serving, what is for the highest good of all. I pray for XYZ, LMNOP, whatever it might be, for the highest good of all. We learn that there's no forcing of a will, because we're creating karma when we force a will. And perhaps the natural order, the divine higher order of the way that the universe is naturally working things to open out, well, it's always in service for the highest good when we don't touch it, when we stay out of the way and simply listen to the higher self and then make moves like moving chess pieces in our lives or around us as the divine navigation system and guidance, that GPS, coordinates and guides our soul's compass within us of where to go and what to do. Then we start to add more light, add more love to our circumstances, to our health, to our healing, to our minds, and to the world. And so on our path of spiritual growth, we learn the premise of service. We learn the premise of serving the higher good. Will says, LOL. And I think that was from a while ago, so LOL. Do you know when I very first got the LOL on my text, I thought someone was saying lots of love to me, and I thought, this is very forward of them. I didn't know it was lots of love. I'm a little behind the loop. So this spiritual growth is a concept we're going to keep coming back to. We're going to keep speaking on. And, you know, today I I have to wrap up by 11. So we're definitely going to do this meditation. This is a book that I have been through several copies of. It's called Spiritual Growth by Sanaya Roman. And it is so powerful. And some of our little highlight topics today were pulled from it. And I've given away so many copies of that. It's similar to Louise Hay's How to Heal Your Life. I've been through so many copies of that, and I've given so many copies away. And the same thing with this book. It has truly served me. I think it was for about, let's look here. I want to say 20 years. I want to say 20 years that I was reading it and learning from it. 1987. Yeah. 1987, 1989. Yeah. For 20 years, that book. It was to the point where I had to retape this up, and there were pages falling out, and it was all taped together and highlighted and lined. And I gave it to someone, and I can't remember. It was a silent apprentice. I think it was Kelly. And the silent apprentice is something we'll talk about later. But that's when you have a divine communion with a student that is present with you, that is a client even, that you're working with, and you develop an intimate value, an intimate trust, and where you begin to learn as a facilitator, as a teacher, that you are guided to share what you have learned with them. You are guided to dispense knowledge. And it's not always a contract, a very aware thing of like, we're going to be in a spiritual apprenticeship, and we're going to shake hands on it, and we're going to have these terms associated, and we're going to sign the contract. It doesn't have to be that way. Often there can be a silent apprenticeship whereby you are simply transmitting information, divine knowledge that you have gathered over your path of spiritual growth, and paying it forward and sharing it because it's guided and because it's a natural thing. We are not trying to do that. Whenever that happens, we are not trying to do that. It might even be with you, with your children. Maybe you're a yogi and you haven't signed necessarily a contract with your children saying like, we're going to take classes, we're going to learn how to become yogis. Yet, it is through the transmission of you holding space, of being that, of embodying that. It is through whenever you're guided to share with them aspects of that becomes heightened and highlighted for them to the degree then they have the opportunity to move with it as they will. So there is so much more to talk about with this higher self. Yet I'm guided to take us into this meditation now. And we're not going to use any instruments today. We're not going to use anything. We're just going to use the voice. And there is, and a part of this meditation, which I love, and it's very powerful, is there's a specific breathing thing. So I want to go through it with you now with our eyes open before we close our eyes and kind of go in and do our thing. So at a certain point at the very beginning, you're going to be guided to take a series of breaths. And the guidance will be to breathe into your upper chest without moving your diaphragm, without expanding your lower body. So if you'd like to put one hand over your upper chest and one hand just above your navel, take a slow, deep inhale through your nose. And notice where your belly wants to expand, and just keep it gently relaxed and let the expansion happen in your upper chest. And as you exhale through your mouth, let the descend, the contraction happen through your upper chest. And do that one more time. Inhale just into the upper chest, just into the lungs. Don't let the belly, the diaphragm expand. And as you exhale, just exhaling from the upper chest. And now we're going to switch it out. Now we're going to let the upper chest stay relaxed and rested without feeling the expansion here. And we're going to move the expansion of the inhale and the exhale into the lower belly, or into the diaphragm area above the navel. So take an inhale and let your lower belly fill up. Take an inhale through your nose. Let it fill up. Keep your chest relaxed though. And as you exhale, just exhaling from that lower belly, let it pull in, relaxing your chest, and we'll do one more. Deep inhale into your lower belly. Let it fill up like a balloon. And a full exhale through the mouth, just the lower belly pulling in. Beautiful. Now you're welcome to keep your hands on yourself during this meditation and perhaps draw that light into you. I'm going to read from the book, and I'm going to invite you to get very, very comfortable. And we'll begin. Sit with your eyes open or closed. Begin by taking a few deep breaths, just normal breaths, in and out. Imagine your entire body relaxing, starting with your toes. Bring a feeling of relaxation into your feet, calves, and thighs. Then up into your abdomen and lower back. Bring a feeling of relaxation into your chest, your upper back and shoulders. Next, relax your arms, hands, neck, head, and face. Let the muscles around your jaw and eyes relax. Adjust your posture so that your energy can flow more easily up and down your spine. Breathe a full breath into just your upper chest, moving your lower diaphragm and abdomen as little as possible. Breathe into your upper chest several times without moving your lower tummy. And notice how you feel. Deep conscious inhale through the nose, filling up the chest, letting it expand, feeling your body, your energy expand. And as you exhale, exhaling just from that upper chest, flushing out the lungs. And again, a deep inhale into that upper chest, filling up, relaxing your diaphragm, relaxing your bellies, not letting them expand or contract too much. And that full exhale through the upper chest. And now switching, breathing into your abdomen several times, allowing your abdominal area, your upper tummy, your lower belly to expand as you inhale through the nose, keeping your chest relaxed, and then exhaling from your lower belly, pulling your abdominal in. And again, inhaling, relaxing your chest. Don't puff it out. Just breathe into your tummies, your bellies expanding. And as you exhale, drawing the abdominals in. Now, keep your conscious breath moving in and out through the body in a relaxed way, in a gentle way. Take a moment to call in your angels, your guides, your totems, all those loved ones, those light beings who love you. And feel they surround you. They are sitting in a circle around you. And now you are ready to meet your higher self. Take a moment to feel the peace, joy, and love all around you. That these beings that sit in a circle around you are here to assist you in feeling, in being, and in meeting your higher self. Take a breath in and out. And from your third eye vision, from your heart vision, Imagine your higher self in the distance, beginning to come toward you. You might picture your higher self as a beautiful, shimmering, radiant light. Greet and welcome your higher self and invite it to come closer. Mentally ask your higher self to assist you in making a stronger connection with it. Feel the radiance of its love surrounding you and embracing you. Feel the lines of light coming to you from your higher self. As these lines of light touch you, feel your vibration increase. Your higher self is now merging and becoming one with you. Feel your molecules and atoms merging with it, as if you are reclaiming a part of your energy. Let your higher self merge with you even more until all of your energy patterns are taking on the radiance of your higher self. Imagine you and your higher self are now one. As your higher self, open your breathing to create a greater flow of energy into your body. Adjust your posture so that you are sitting as your higher self. As your higher self, adjust your shoulders and chest to reflect your confidence and wisdom. What facial expression do you have as your higher self? Think of a situation you want guidance about. As your higher self, you're going to give yourself advice about this situation. Imagine you are a wise teacher and consultant. What advice would you give yourself on this situation? Depending on your circumstances, you may want to speak out loud, or perhaps make a note in your mind space to write down this divine guidance later. Think of a situation you're seeking guidance about, and imagine that you, as your higher self that you are now integrated with, are going to give yourself advice about that situation. We'll sit with that now, being open and receptive to the divine wisdom of the higher self. Notice if the higher self speaks to you, shows you visions or pictures, gives you a sense of feeling, realization, all of the above. Feel this loving guidance as it pours into your awareness, into your consciousness from your higher self. And now, as your higher self, ask, do you have any other messages for me now? Asking your higher self, perhaps if it has any messages about your spiritual growth now, about your higher purpose, or anything else at all. We'll take a moment to listen to the divine guidance of the higher self and the wisdom it has to share with us now. receiving divine messages, and knowing that at any time that we may be guided, we can connect with this higher self, for we have now integrated it into our body, our mind, and all of our beings. And knowing that after this meditation, we may move through our day with this expanded awareness, this expanded consciousness that is not only you as the physical body that you are, as the name you have been given in this world that you are, but you are your higher self. You are connected to the higher will, to all of the love and light and the wisdom of that love and light in the entire universe and beyond it, that is intimately connected to Source, to all that is, to love. Imagine the light of your higher self expanding out from the center of your heart in all directions, creating a beautiful radiance of light, of awareness, of intuitive ability to very gently see beyond the veils, the duality in this world, of the duality of your past, of your possible future, and allowing the wisdom of the higher self to ground us in the purity of the present moment, in the purity of your Dharma, in the purity of the ever-present whispers and guidance of the truth from your heart. Your higher self is the voice of your heart, is the voice of your light body, is the voice for God, is the feeling realization of oneness. Now take a moment to say thank you. Give thanks. Thank you, higher self, for coming today, for being present today, for illuminating me, activating with me and through me and to me, that I may be blessed by your presence, your infinite knowledge and wisdom, and simply relax into honoring and trusting that wisdom, that love, and that light in this world. I am my higher self. I am now my higher self. And so it is. Take a nice deep breath in and a nice deep breath out. And very gently begin to blink your eyes open, bringing awareness back to the space that we are. Making any little movements that feel good wherever you are seated. Oh, blessings. Christine is here too. The higher self, spiritual growth, self-love. That's what we're doing. We are learning how to be alchemists, how to be, on one hand, warriors. There's a certain point in our spiritual growth, which we'll get to later. I don't know how many parts of this there'll be, and I don't know if they're going to be sequential, where next week we'll do spiritual growth part 2. We might go off on a whole other different topic and come back to this later. But there is an arc. And eventually we move out of having to be a warrior, of having to fight with the dark and the light. The tipping point shifts into the light, into the love, and we begin to trust that more and more. And so cultivate and create our realities from that space of love and light more and more and more. And so there's less to fight with. There's less to be a warrior about. The inner ability of you knowing yourself through your practices of spiritual growth, of facing those fears, of facing your pain, and of learning to heal and transmute it, allows you, what I believe, is to move from having to feel like you need to be that warrior in the world to an alchemist, a conscious alchemist in the world. where we are just consciously placing love, placing light, illuminating ourselves and others for the highest good of all, just because we can. Not because the world is bad, or because I'm bad or you're bad, or any polarized realization, but just because we realize we are light, we are love. Oh, April, Will, Christine, Tammy, thank you all so much for being here, and everyone else who's watching. Everyone else who's watching, I am so very grateful. We are going to wrap up today, and I thank you. Thank you all new subscribers. Thank you everyone for hopping on, and I really pray that the messages in these videos serve your path. The teachings that we share resonate, uplift you, fortify, and nourish you along your path of spiritual growth and sovereignty, and that is freedom. Being in the world and not defined by it. Please do stop by the Show More box below this video. There's links to my books, links to my website, and do subscribe at my website and you'll receive a copy of the Higher Self Blueprint of Mastery, and you'll be on my monthly mailing list. I thank you so much, everyone. I bless you, and I'm so served by your blessing, by being seen by you. And thank you for letting me see you too, as your higher self. Blessings on your path of spiritual growth with so much love, everyone. Namaste for today. I'll see you soon.